Okay, we can now start wenye hawajakuja watatupata tukiendelea. And
Gay. Okay.
now you all have to keep quiet. I'm going to mute all of you. Tutaongea lesson ikisha. We'll talk after the lesson. I hope you are all okay. It is long time. Najua ukiwa shule teacher John ndiye alikuwa anafunza social studies. Lakini saizi I'm going to take you through social studies mpaka wakati tutarudi shule. So number one, I don't know if you've been getting the lessons zenye nimekuwa nikituma za social studies kuanzia last week. I've been sending many lessons. Nilianzia kwa social relations and cultural activities. Nimekuwa nikituma hizo lessons. I taught about the school. I taught about the family. I taught people and population. We learned about the people who are found within the Eastern Africa. Tulisoma watu wote. We learned all of them. Maybe nikijaribu kukumbuka tu, just to remind you, we said that we have 4 major language groups. We said we have 4 major language groups in Eastern Africa. That is the Bantus, the Kushites, the Nilotes, and the Semites. And then Kushites, we said we have got 3 groups of Kushites. That is Eastern Kushites and the Southern Kushites. Eastern Kushites ni nyinyi, the Somali, the Borana, the Oromo, and then we have the clans within the Somali. There are so many clans within the Somali. Kuna Hawia, kuna Ogaden, kuna Bilbante, kuna Merehan. Wewe nyamaza, nafundisha. So those are the clans within the Somali. Pia tukasoma the Southern Kushites. Southern Kushites in Kenya tulisema ni moja peke yake. The Dahalo ni mbili, the Dahalo and the Sanye. We said we have only 2, Dahalo and Sanye. And then we said that most Southern Kushites wengi wako Tanzania. We have got so many Southern Kushites in Tanzania. And then we also looked at the Bantus. Bantus tulisema we have 3 Bantus in Kenya, 3 groups of Bantus in Kenya, and that is the Western Bantus, the Eastern Bantus, and the Central Bantus. Western, Central, and the Eastern Bantus. So, and then we also looked at the Nilotes. Nilotes, we said we have how many Nilotes? We have 3 groups of Nilotes. That is the Plain Nilotes, the Highland Nilotes, and the River Lake Nilotes. And in Kenya, we said we only have 1 River Lake Nilote, and that is the Luo. So tukamaliza hiyo topic hivyo, and then after that tukaenda kwa topic ingine yenye tulimaliza last week, inaitwa social relations and cultural activities, and we learned about the family. We also learned about the school. We said that a school is a place where people go to learn. Alafu pia tukasema have got 3 things that you have to remember about the school. That is the school motto. We have got the school program, and we have the school routine. School motto tulisema, a school motto is a slogan that is followed by people within a school. and it mainly helps in motivating the learners and the teachers together with the community. For example, school motto yetu ni, we do our best to learn and succeed. That is our motto. So ukienda shule, kitu yenye nitakana ujue, you have to remember that school motto, that you are coming to school to do your best, to learn and to be successful. And then we have the school program. School program is what the school intends to do for the whole term, what the school has prepared for the whole term. For example, which week are we going to have open exams? Which week are we going to have midterm exams? And on which week are we going to have sports and so many other things that happen within a school. Hiyo ndio tunaita school program. And then school routine. School routine, these are things that happen daily within the school. Sasa hizo ndio vitu nimeshafundisha na zote ziko kwa YouTube. You can check there. All the videos are found on your wall. So kama uko unaangalia hizo lessons, make sure that you check, because I've already taught how many lessons? How many topics? I've already taught 2 topics, social relations and cultural activities, and I've also taught people and population. Last on Wednesday, we started a new topic. We started a new topic on Wednesday, and that topic was resources and economic activities. That is the topic that we started, and it is the one that we want to continue with right now. We already learned about tea in Kenya. This is a topic that mostly deals with the economic activities which are practiced within Eastern Africa. Unajua class 6 we learn about Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa iko na countries ngapi? 11 countries. 11 countries within Eastern Africa. Nasruddin, unmute your mic. I want you to name for me the 11 countries within Eastern Africa. Nataka uniambie 11 countries za Eastern Africa. Anza moja nisikie. Where microphone yako imesumbua kuanzia mwanzo. Who is ready to name for me the 11 countries within Eastern Africa? If you are ready, unmute your mic uniambie. 11 countries within Eastern Africa. Anza nisikie moja. Kenya. Tanzania. Uganda.
South Sudan. Rwanda. Burundi. Ethiopia. Somalia.
And Eritrea. Umesoma mahali ama umetoka kwa akili yako?
Umetoka kwa akili yangu.
Umetoka kwa akili. Okay, sawa. Wonderful. Okay, mute your mic now. Good. So, Zakaria nimekuona. Zakaria, unmute your mic. I greet you. How are you? Zakaria, unmute your mic. Okay, huyu ni kama atasikia kesho. Acha tuendelee. So those are the countries within Eastern Africa. Sabrina ametuambia we have got 11 countries and she has named all of them. So this topic, resources and economic activities, we are going to look at some of the economic activities which are practiced within East Africa. So the East African countries and the economic activities that they practice. So we started with the crop farming. Our first economic activity was crop farming, and we started with tea farming in Kenya. Tea in Kenya. That is the first subtopic we started with, tea in Kenya. And then after that, so if you never, I know you have your phones and you can check our last lesson, Wednesday. You can check whatever I taught on tea farming in Kenya. So let us look at coffee farming. Coffee, as you can see, is a crop which is grown within Eastern Africa. It is a highland crop, and it is a beverage crop. We have got so many beverage crops like tea. Tea is also a beverage crop. Coffee is a beverage crop, and we also have cocoa. Cocoa is also another beverage crop. A beverage crop is a crop which people use to make drinks, like ukitaka kunywa chai lazima utengeneza either na kahawa ama chai, majani chai, or you can also use coffee. You can use coffee, tea, or cocoa to make tea. So we can drink the three, and that's why we call them beverage crops. Beverage crops are crops that we grow for consumption as drinks. So coffee is one of the beverage crops which is grown within Eastern Africa. And this crop, all East African countries grow this crop. So it is grown in Kenya, it is grown in Tanzania, it is grown in Uganda, it is grown in Ethiopia, it is grown in Sudan. But South Sudan, I don't know if it is grown there, South Sudan and Somalia, because Somalia, Eritrea, Djibouti, these are very dry countries. They are found in semi-deserts. And this crop does not grow well in such conditions. So I don't think if they are grown there. But in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, those countries, this crop is grown there. So you can see coffee is one of the major crops which is grown by the East African countries. We cannot discuss about all the countries and how they practice the coffee farming. So our syllabus just requires us to discuss only 2 countries. And we are going to discuss coffee farming in Kenya and coffee farming in Ethiopia. Those are the 2 countries that we are going to discuss. And when we discuss 2 countries, it doesn't mean that coffee is only grown in those 2 countries in Africa. No, we have so many other countries in Africa and in Eastern Africa where coffee is grown. But since we cannot discuss all the countries, we are just going to talk about 2, and that is Kenya and Ethiopia. So we are going to look at coffee farming in Kenya and Ethiopia. Before we look at Kenya, there are some few things that you have to know about coffee farming. Coffee farming, as I said, coffee is a crop which is grown as for beverage purposes. When we harvest coffee, the berries are the ones which are harvested. Tea, we harvest the leaves. Sugarcane, we harvest the stem. Bananas, we harvest the fruits. Coffee, we harvest the berries. So they are called the coffee berries. Zinaitwa coffee berries. These berries are the ones which are harvested and then taken to the industry or a factory, and then from there, they are processed and we get coffee. So we can get coffee after processing the berries. So the berries are the ones that are going to give us coffee, the coffee that you can now drink while at home. It needs temperatures. This is a crop which grows well in temperatures of about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And this is not very high temperature. High temperature start from 30 and above. This is a crop which requires a cool temperature. We say it is a highland crop. Most of the crops that were introduced in Africa by the Europeans, that is the settlers, most of them are highland crops. Most, not all, most of them, like tea, like coffee, like pyrethrum, like wheat. These are crops that do well in highlands. Now, class 5 mulifundishwa, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. So if the altitude is high, the temperature is going to be low. As you go up the altitude, the temperatures always does what? Drops. So the higher the altitude, the lower the temperature. Since coffee grows in highlands, in highland areas, the temperature in these areas are always cool. So coffee is a crop that needs cool temperatures of about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And that's why we cannot grow coffee in Mandera. Coffee cannot be grown in Wajir. Coffee cannot be grown in Kajiado, because those areas are very hot. And this is a crop that does not require a lot of temperature. Coffee in Kenya, we are going to see areas where coffee is grown in Kenya. In Kenya, coffee is grown mostly near Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya. Mountains have got a very high altitude, and mountains are always very cool. Areas near mountains are always very cool, and that is why this crop is grown in the central part of Kenya near Mount Kenya. It grows well in deep, well-drained, fertile soil, and the soil must be red volcanic soil. I forgot to add the word red there. So it is a crop that requires a red volcanic soil, and the soil must be deep, well-drained, volcanic soil. So you cannot grow coffee in other types of soil apart from the red volcanic soil. But in social studies, we have got 3 types of soils in social studies. Achana na hiyo science. Science najua pia ni tatu: clay, loam na sand. But in social studies, we have got 3 types of soil when it comes to crop farming. And that is a red volcanic soil, black cotton soil, and the young soil. Young soil we also call it is also known as alluvial soil. So another name of young soil is alluvial, Alluvial. It is also known as young soil. Young soil, which is also known as alluvial soil, this is the soil that mostly we grow crops like rice, crops which grow in along the rivers. And then we have the black cotton soil. Black cotton soil is mostly used for growing of tea. Then we have got red volcanic soil, which is good for growth of coffee. So coffee and pyrethrum, by the way, coffee and pyrethrum. Pyrethrum only summer class 5. So pyrethrum is not something new to you. So pyrethrum, coffee, they do well in red volcanic soil, but coffee and tea does well in black cotton soil. The climate should be cool. The climate where coffee is grown should be cool. I hope you are getting the differences. Unajua tukisema a crop cannot be grown in a certain area, there must be reasons. Lazima tukuwe na sababu. Sababu gani tunasema coffee haiwezi kuwa grown in a given area na place zingine coffee inaweza ikamea huko? It is because of those differences. The differences I'm giving you right now, hizo ndio zinafanya coffee haiwezi kuwa planted in some areas, and in some areas we can have coffee. The area must be receiving high rainfall, and the rainfall must be between 1,000 millimeters to 2,000 millimeters. Between 1,000 millimeters to 2,000 millimeters. That is the amount of rainfall which coffee requires. So those are the conditions which must be there for coffee to be grown. Without that, coffee cannot grow well. So if you go to an area which does not have those conditions and you start planting your coffee there, you are going to harvest nothing. Yes, it will grow, but what are you going to harvest? You will harvest nothing. It will grow, but it's not going to grow very, very well. Yeah. Anybody with a question? I'm almost I'm done with the first bit. Conditions favoring the growth of coffee. Kuna mtu akona swali? Kuna swali, kuna point hujaelewa out of the points that I've just discussed. Mtu akikuuliza, if someone asks you conditions necessary for the growth of coffee, can you give them? Why coffee should, the conditions that coffee requires for it to grow well. Some of them include, number 1, it requires cool temperature. Coffee requires cool temperature. That is number 1. Number 2, this is a crop that requires high rainfall, and the rainfall must be between 1,000 millimeters to 2,000 millimeters. Another thing, coffee requires high altitude. High altitude. This is a crop that needs a lot of altitude. And of course, you know that high altitude areas are areas that are very cool because of the phenomenon that you are taught. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. And then I'm also adding another one. Pia tumesema it is a crop that requires a deep, well-drained volcanic soil. So those are the conditions that coffee requires for it to grow well. Let us move ahead and look at the next thing. And that is coffee growing in Kenya. Coffee growing in Kenya. Coffee growing in Kenya. Coffee is one of the major cash crops in Kenya. It is grown in Kenya. Coffee is one of the major cash crops grown in Kenya. And it is, as I said earlier, it is a beverage crop. So it is grown for export. We export coffee. Coffee is grown not for local consumption, but for exportation mostly. It is a highland crop, that one is already said. And then it was introduced in Kenya. It was introduced in Kenya by the Europeans. It was introduced in Kenya by the Europeans who are missionaries. And then we have got three types of coffee. So in Kenya we have got, there are, kuna mtu anapiga kelele hapo. I am muting him or her, na yeye anaji-unmute. Sijui ni nani huyo. Let me check. Please, nikisema unmute, you can unmute. But when I'm teaching, just let your phone be silent and you listen to my explanation. Ongea baadaye. Coffee is coffee. I said that coffee, we have got three types of coffee. We have got coffee robusta, and coffee arabica. And then we have Ruirutu. Ruirutu, this one is only grown in Kenya, and it is a drought-resistant crop. Drought-resistant. So this is a crop that this type of coffee, that is Ruirutu, is a crop that requires it can grow well anywhere. Drought-resistant crop. It is a crop that can do well in dry areas, but it is not so common. It is not so common in Kenya. Ruirutu is a drought-resistant coffee, also grown in Kenya. But the main crop which is grown in Kenya, the main type of coffee grown in Kenya is Robusta. The main coffee grown in Kenya is Robusta. So Robusta is the one which is mainly grown in Kenya. So those are a few things about coffee growing in Kenya. And remember, coffee is not the main export crop. Coffee is not the main crop grown in Kenya. Okay, let us go to coffee growing in Tanzania, in Ethiopia. Coffee growing in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the leading producer of coffee in Africa. Ethiopia is the leading producer of coffee in Africa. And the main coffee which is grown in Ethiopia is coffee Arabica. Coffee Arabica is the main coffee which is grown in Ethiopia. Arabica is the main coffee grown in Ethiopia. And the main areas where coffee in Ethiopia is grown is a place known as Kafar and Harar. Kafar and Harar are the main areas where coffee is grown. And then it is grown on both small scale and large scale. What is the meaning of small scale and large scale? Small scale is when a farmer grows coffee on a small piece of land. But large scale farming is a type of farming whereby a farmer grows coffee on a very big farm. So in Ethiopia, coffee is grown on both small scale and on large scale. And then coffee existed in Ethiopia as a natural vegetation. So it was not brought by anybody. It was just growing there. And then lastly, the main problem facing coffee growing in Ethiopia is poor transport. That is the main problem facing coffee growing in Ethiopia. That marks the end of my lesson, coffee growing in Kenya and Ethiopia. So it is my time now to ask you some few questions about what I've just taught. Nione kama mlikuwa mnaelewa ama mlikuwa mnaangalia tu simu. And my first question, na mmebadilika sura hata siwajui. Okay. Now who is this? Zakaria, where are you? I want Zakaria to unmute his mic. Sijui kama ametoroka, simuoni. Salma, habari yako? Zakaria, umerudi? Hello. Hey. You guys don't want to talk. Amina? I have a question for you.
Yes.
I hope umeelewa kitu nimekuwa nikifunza. Nimefunza sahi tumesema in Eastern Africa, coffee is grown in 2 countries. Coffee is grown in which country and which country?
Ethiopia and Kenya.
Ethiopia and Kenya. Between Ethiopia and Kenya, which country produces a lot of coffee? Between Ethiopia and Kenya, which country produces a lot of coffee? And who can answer that question? Between Kenya and Ethiopia, which country produces a lot of coffee? Anybody?
Kenya.
Nano yamesema Kenya. One person. Wacha niulize nani? Nauliza Zakaria. Zakaria, I'm asking you a question and you are not answering me. Zakaria, between Kenya and Ethiopia, which country produces a lot of coffee? Quiet. Isra, between Kenya and Ethiopia, which country produces a lot of coffee? Taki kuongea. Who else? Wengine hata majina yao sijui, I cannot, na wamekata video, I cannot see them. Anyway, between Kenya and Ethiopia, the leading producer of coffee is Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the leading producer of coffee in Africa. So Ethiopia produces a lot of coffee. Between Kenya and Ethiopia, Ethiopia is the leading producer of coffee. Hope tumeelewana paka hapo. I have another question. Modela Brown unatupigia kelele. Modela Brown, Farmajo unatupigia kelele. Mute your mic. In fact, I have a question for you. Farmajo, unmute your mic. I want to ask you a question. Are you there?
Yes.
Can you name for me the two types of coffee? Name 2 types of coffee grown in Eastern Africa. One.
Tea. And only one teacher.
Gani hiyo? Tea peke yake?
Tea. Yes.
Sabrine, Ebu, where are you?
I'm here.
Can you name for me the two types of coffee grown in Eastern Africa? Moja.
Coffee.
The two types of coffee. Two types of coffee grown in Eastern Africa. One.
Coffee Robusta
Coffee Robusta.
and Arabic.
It is not Arabic, ni Arabica.
Arabica.
Arabica. Arabica. We have got two types of coffee grown in Eastern Africa. That is coffee Robusta and coffee Arabica. Very good. Coffee Robusta and coffee Arabica. Alafu pia tumesema in Ethiopia there are two major towns or two major places where coffee is grown. Who knows the answer? There are two major areas in Ethiopia where coffee is grown. Which one and which one?
Kafar and Harar.
Amino, ulikuwa unasema nini? What were you saying? Okay, your mic is muted, but no problem. Jibuni, Kafar and Harar. Kafar and Harar are the two major towns, the two major places in Ethiopia where coffee is grown. Good. I think watu umeelewa kidogo what I've been teaching. Our lesson was to take 45 minutes. I have only 2 minutes remaining. If someone has any question, I want to end the lesson. Kama kuna mtu ako na swali, anaweza kauliza. I don't know if you always get our lessons. So make sure that you follow our lessons. Hata kama sio Zoom, zile zenye zinawekwa hapo, make sure unafuatilia, unaandika. Those notes, they are very important. And anytime we will be having Zoom, we'll be going through the notes that I'll be giving you. So make sure you follow those lessons. And next week, maybe if we'll be having an SSP Zoom lesson, we will discuss more about other crops. So we are done with coffee in Kenya and Ethiopia. The next crop we'll be discussing will be bananas in Kenya and Uganda. Banana in Kenya and Uganda. Moss. Farmajo, banana ni moss. Next lesson tutasoma moss. Kwa hivyo kila mtu akuja kwa lesson na moss. Mtaniwekea hapo kwa video, mimi nakula, nyinyi mkula kwa macho. Sawa? Okay, have a good time and enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Bye-bye for now.